You know, there's like a level of professionalism I have to maintain when I'm speaking to like various academics and people in the legal profession. Not to say this episode isn't any less serious. However, may I chat to me good friend?
Warrior.
What go- Let's have a chat, man. What go on? Oh, yeah, tell me.
Nothing, man. I'm excited to have this conversation. I feel like it's a conversation that's been going around a lot, so it should be an interesting one. I'm excited.
Yeah, man. I mean, as the title will say, we're talking about the politics of black hair. Before we get into it, yeah, let's make it very personal. I know you've told me in our conversations that we've spoken about, you've had a few experiences where people try to come and try you, as it were.
Of course, haven't we all? Like, I'm sure any black woman listening to this has had experiences where they've been tried. For instance, if you
Yeah.
have your hair out and someone will try to come and touch it, that's always a
Is that a
moment.
real thing? I mean, obviously, I do believe all of the people who say it, but is that like, it's still mind blowing to me.
Yeah, it's absolutely real. And especially in these workplaces that are predominantly white, you do
Yeah.
end up feeling like a bit of a circus freak in there because everyone's just a bit like, oh my God, your hair, oh, is this all yours then? Is it, oh, okay. And it's so awkward, being in that situation where you're like, yeah, this is my hair, thank you. And yeah, please don't touch, thank you so much. And some of them will even touch your hair without asking you.
You'll know.
Or you get the typical question of, so when your hair is in braids, so how do you wash it then? How do you wash it? I don't get how this is any of your business, Sally. I don't understand. So this is I feel like this is the issue that like all black women in like the corporate space go through. And I was speaking to a few black women last night and it all seemed to be like an echoing of the same experiences. This lady was saying that a man asked her to take her wig off in the office. And I was like,
Huh?
yeah, he was just like, take it off. Come on, love, take it off. Let's have a look. Sorry, what? I'd like,
But
it's
wait,
beyond me.
sorry. Let's pull back. Take it off for what?
No idea. They just wanted to see what was under there. So she'd basically been working with them for a while. And then she
Yeah.
changed her hairstyle and they were like, wow, so what's under there though? So is it your hair under there? Well, take it off. Let's have a look. And you're like, how could
That's
you?
so
I don't know how I would
rude.
respond. It's ridiculous. I don't know how I would respond in these situations, but honestly, these are the
But what
everyday
is it about the past?
microaggressions.
I mean, the thing is, it speaks very much to if we look at the historical legacy, particularly of the black woman's body, we see that it's, we had human zoos because of black women's shapes. We have stories of black women being cut into pieces and put on
Facts.
display in museums. So it kind of speaks to that thing of like, there's like a weird fetishization, fascination with black bodies, particularly black women.
I agree with you. Yeah, there's always been a fetishization. Even if you think about, the black woman who was taken on tours around the world because of her bum, and they would look at her
Exactly.
naked in these zoos, and all these black people that have been, looked at in these zoos up until not so long ago. These zoos actually existed. So it's one of these
Exactly.
things. It's a trickle down of racism, and it's also, I feel like it's also the not having access. So I feel like a lot of people that don't have access to black people in their everyday lives then take that opportunity.
Mm.
For example, if they're at work with you and it's their first time being so close, even if it seems insane, but so it's being able to have a conversation about hair with a black person, and the first thing you ask me is, "What? How do I wash my hair?" Or "How is that? How did they do it? How is that on your scalp?"
But
And it's
where do we draw the line between, let's say, a microaggression and kind of genuine curiosity?
I think where we draw the line
Hmm.
is in workspaces. I think when you're in spaces that are supposed to be professional, I always feel like you
Yeah.
should keep it professional. So, of course, we all have, work friends and we have these conversations. But when it comes to people's, their hair, their appearance, I feel like those are always areas that are sacred and you should just leave alone. If someone looks a certain way
Okay.
to you, or, I think that for everybody, regardless of race, it's just a sacred thing. If you was to see someone and think, it looks like they're having a bad hair day, you just wouldn't go up to them and tell them that, or whatever the case may be, which it's been for many black women, which has traumatized them. They're going into these workplaces with their afros out and people are making comments like, oh, did you not have enough time to do your hair this morning? Oh, did
Wow.
you have to rush in? Comments like this that make them then feel like they cannot wear their hair out, in the office again. And they make them feel like they have to wear these wigs and these weaves in order to fit in, and just to avoid those unnecessary conversations that they may have. So I think that it's a very gray area. But I also think that curiosity is something that if I'm curious about something, I Google something, you know? So if I have a question
Mm-hmm.
about, I don't know, whatever it might be, any topic, I would go onto Google and find information. That information is readily available. So I think it goes past
Yeah.
curiosity. And I think it's them really trying to make you feel uncomfortable. And I think that narrative of curiosity is what we've been given. It's like, oh, you know, they don't have that much contact with black people. So when they do have contact with you, they've got all these questions. But the truth be told is that, like, for example, if I wanted to find out something about the Hindi culture, I would Google it. I
Yeah.
wouldn't go and find an Indian person and start asking them a bunch of questions about Hindis, because it just doesn't make sense to do that. So I think it's that logic. And if we can take that logic into everything, then maybe that's where we can draw the line, you know, just don't ask those questions. Just Google it. If you're
Nah.
really that intrigued, just Google it.
Nah, I fully hear that. I fully hear that. Have you had any
Yeah.
like personal experiences yourself?
I've definitely have loads. I've had loads of personal experiences with black hair, and I had one experience that I can think of recently is when I was in a workspace and I got braids done, and you know, one of my colleagues had already asked me sort of, "Oh my God, how do you wash it? So when are you going to wash it?" And I'd already been like, "Okay, whatever." Like we went through that in the morning, and then in the evening, another
Yeah.
one of my colleagues then goes ahead and asks me, you know, how do you wash your hair? On top of, and I just felt like it was just a bit too much. Everyone asking me how I wash my hair, and I felt like it was no one's business. But of course, in a workspace, you don't feel comfortable with telling someone, you know, it's none of your business, mind your business. You're trying to be as
Of
polite as
course.
possible and
Yeah.
be professional. So I then spoke to my manager about it, and I wasn't even like snitching or anything. I was just saying to her, we were speaking about like racisms and microaggressions, and I was like to her, you know, just going on to like a few days ago, some of like our colleagues asked me how I wash my hair, and I'm not completely comfortable with that question because I would never ask anyone
Yeah.
else that question. I mean, if you have that curiosity, I'd imagine you just Google it. You wouldn't go up to someone
Yes.
and ask them how they plan on washing their hair. It just seems too personal. And she just
Yeah.
had no sort of understanding. And she was, I think she's Indian, yeah. So she's Indian. So she completely had no understanding of like why I was upset about it, and like she just kind of
Mm.
sort of thought, oh well, you know, I doubt they meant it like that. You know how it is. They don't really mean it like that. And she tried to
No
sort of
understanding of
convince
any kind of
me.
historical context.
Exactly. And she tried to sort of convince me. And then we went into this sort of conversation of how, you know, she believes black and Asian people are more racist than white people. And then I thought, wow, this conversation has taken a
No
whole spin and a
way.
turn. Yeah. So we went from speaking about black hair to speaking about racism. And, you know, and I feel like it's such a delicate topic. Even if you want to bring it up as like a light topic to say, like, this is not fair, it will always end up turning into a deep or upsetting topic because it's a triggering topic for a lot of people.
Mm.
Yeah.
So then talk about
So
your own kind of personal, your own personal experience with hair, like, because I know now you kind of embrace natural hair more so, isn't it?
yeah, so I'm what you'd call a naturalista, quote unquote, right now.
Is
But
that
of
is that a
course,
term?
it's a term, honey. We, you know, us natural gals,
Okay.
we need our
Naturalista,
thing.
yeah. You like
Yeah,
love a Easter, you love a
we love it.
fashionista, and then
We love it. Naturalista, honey, we rock it. That's the point. But yeah, like I think I've only been natural for about, I want to say 5 or 6 years. And
okay,
even so, becoming natural, like I didn't know my natural hair texture till I did decide to become natural because I'd never let it grow out to a point, you know. So I've had my hair permed since I was about 7, I think. And it all stemmed from when I
damn.
was younger.
What's the
Yeah.
purpose of perming? Because you know, Liz, I wanna. It's gonna be open up to so many people. I want to make this episode an opportunity for answer all the questions. So when people say in the future, "Oh, what about how do you wash your hair?" No, listen. Go to the Malcolm Effect. Go to this episode, and you can find out like all about black hair. So I want to talk about all things black hair. What's the purpose of perming your hair?
So naturally, black hair has curly or coily texture. So most black
Yeah.
people will have four hair, so either 4A to C hair. I've got 4C hair, which is a lot more
What's that? I
coiled.
hear it all the time. I hear 4A, 4B, Type C. I mean, I understand.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit complicated if you're not, you know, I mean, if you don't have the hair, you wouldn't understand. So basically,
Okay.
1A hair would be basically straight hair. So that is the
Okay.
contrast. So 1A is straight hair, and then
So who would have
4C is,
1A? Is this all to do with black hair, by the way? Or is
it's
it
not all to
all
do
hair in
with black hair.
general?
It's all hair in general. So it's almost like you'd want to say the science behind it. So the 1A
Okay.
hair would be white people or maybe some mixed people or even Asian people who just have naturally straight hair. And then as you
Okay.
go on from 1 to 2, it gets curlier. So it's more like wavy, a curly texture. And then you go to 3, which then becomes more defined curls. So 3A is curly, but not as defined. Then 3C is defined curls. And when we talk about curls, we're talking about individual strands of hair. So if you were to look at one
Okay.
strand of hair, what would it look like? Would it be straight, or would it be curly, or would it be absolutely coily? So there's the difference
So
between
3A
curls.
would be curly, you said, yeah?
Yeah, so 3A would be a straight strand of hair that curls within it. So it's just a curl that's got curls in it. It's a straight strand of hair
Okay.
that's got curls in it. 3C
And 3C
is
would
a
be, yeah.
3C is a very curly strand of hair. So it's not straight now. It's
Oh,
almost
so it's
afro
more
texture.
curly.
Yeah, it's a lot more curly. So
By
the
curly, are we talking about like in coils, like my hair?
no. So 3C would be a curl. So if you would imagine a mixed person's hair, you know, how their hair is
Like a mixed race, black
afro
and white.
texture. Yes, exactly. Mixed race person's hair, where their hair is afro texture, but it's curlier rather than less kinky, more curly. So when we talk about kinky and coily, we're then going on to 4 hair. So 4A to C is afro texture hair, and the coils now. So the hair coils rather than curling, it coils. And these coils can be hard to see. You'd have to stretch the hair in order to
So what
see
what would
the
my hair
coils.
be?
So your hair would probably be 4C hair. And so if you were
Okay.
to grow your hair out and have a strand, for example, if a strand was to fall out, you'd be able to stretch it and see how the hair is almost like elastic. So it coils
Wow.
and it shrinks within itself. And that is the reason why Black people don't have to wash their hair as often, or people with 4C hair would not have to wash their hair as often as people with 3A hair, for example. Because our hair is a lot more coily,
Yeah.
it takes a longer time for the oil to travel from the root to
Yeah.
the ends of the hair. And so hence why our hair is quite delicate and has to be, you know, we have to sleep with bonnets on and
This is a whole science
headscarves.
lesson, you know. This is a whole
Abs-
science lesson. I'm
abs-
fascinated. Honestly, like I'm sincerely fascinated. Okay, cool. So what's the science of the bonnet
So with regards to the bonnet, it's either silk or
and
satin,
the
and these are the
do-rag for guys as well?
yeah, the do-rag for men. So these are normally silk or satin materials which are supposed to retain the moisture within your hair. So like I said earlier,
Mm-hmm.
because it takes longer from the oils that we naturally produce in our hair are what moisturize our hair. So with
Yeah.
people that have straight hair, that the oil travels quite fast down to the end, and hence why they end up having greasy hair, for example, and don't ever have to add oil to their hair. Whereas because
Oh.
exactly. Because our oil takes longer to travel through the coils. Imagine it's got, you know, hundreds of coils to travel through before it gets to the end of your hair. It's
Okay.
taking it longer to get down there. So hence why we have to add more oils into our hair, because we have to
Mm-hmm.
substitute for the amount of time it's taking to travel, as well as retaining that moisture within our hair, because it's quite easy to lose that oil within those coils. If if you just imagine something traveling straight down and something traveling in a rotation sort of motion, it would
Yeah.
be much easier
Yeah.
for you to lose something on the edge of that rather than if you were going straight down. So we are more likely to lose the moisture, and it's harder for our oil to travel through our hair. So hence why we have to
That's why you
moisturize
gotta
and
apply the oil and you apply the oils, sleep with a bonnet to keep the moisture in so your hair doesn't essentially what you're saying, so your hair doesn't dry out.
exactly. And so we use different methods. So there's the lock method, or the LO or the LCO method, which is basically liquid cream oil. So it would be applying a spritz of sort of water, or some sort of water
Yeah.
and oil mix that you have, and then applying cream of some sort. So it could be like a cream of nature. I personally use cream of nature, or you can use natural hair brands. I've got one called Afro Hair Candy that I use as well, which is absolutely amazing. And so you cream it,
Yeah.
and then you add a sort of oil at the end, for example, shea butter, or depending on the porosity of your hair as well. You add that in order for it
Porosity?
to the air. Oh, let's get into that in a minute. So you add the oil, seal in the moisture. So then when we're moving on to porosity, now that
Yeah.
is a completely different ball game, and a lot of people argue
Okay,
that
before you get into that, let's talk about what do we
yeah,
mean by protective hairstyles and what we're protecting it from or for.
exactly. So we're talking about exactly what we were talking about with regards to our oils. Oils are the most important
Yeah.
part because that's what keeps your hair from being brittle. So we're protecting our hair from drying out once again. And what the reason why we do this is because of the coils in our hair. Once again, our hair is afro, and in order
Yeah.
to protect your hair, you almost have to So when we do these braids and these plaits, we're almost sealing in that moisture. So we've oiled that hair, and we're putting that hair within itself. We're protecting our ends, because the ends of your hair are the oldest parts of your hair, so they're the most brittle parts. So we're protecting our
Yes.
ends, we're sealing our ends and making sure that they don't lose any moisture along the way. We're also allowing for new regrowth. So we're allowing for our hair to grow within those protective styles without it being constantly manipulated by heat. Because having Afro hair texture, for example, especially living in a Western society, a lot
Yeah.
of women find they have to blow dry their hair in order to retain the length of their hair, because they feel like.
Yeah. Even when I'm getting my hair done, for example, when I get braids, I've got to like blow dry it out.
Exactly, because of the shrinkage, which is
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
topic. The shrinkage is basically the same thing to do with the coiling of our hair. When our hair is stretched out or straightened, it's only temporarily. It's only done temporarily. So when it comes into contact with moisture, it shrinks again to its coily state,
Yes.
to its natural state, and that's why we have to constantly blow dry our hair. And these are all heat manipulation, which causes
What
damage, of
what
course, as we all know.
what's an example of like a protective hairstyle?
So an example of a protective hairstyle would be cornrows, cane-rows, so
Bantu,
basically
like our friend
braiding,
Adele.
bantu knots. Absolutely, I mean, I'm not sure if it was a good choice for her, because I'm not sure how she took them out. But but definitely for the 40-year texture, bantu knots are a great protective style. And the best thing to do as well is to keep protective styles in for a long period of time. So when you do twist outs, it's always great to keep the twist out in for a few days. So when you twist our hair, we're talking 2-strand twists here. You twist your hair down. Before you untwist that hair, keep it in for a couple of days, because that's going to lock in the moisture. It's going to define the curls, so that when you finally take it out, that twist out is popping. But there's also styles like
Oh.
braids. Box braids are very good protective styles, because you lock your hair away from the winter. You just box braid it up, and then you take it out, and you can do whatever with it, and it allows for your
So
hair to
protecting it,
grow.
so it kind of like, so okay, so for regrowth and keep the moisture in, basically, that's what you mean by protective hairstyle.
Exactly. So yeah, you've got things like crochet, which is cane-mowing your hair and basically weaving the extensions in and knotting them onto your cane-mowed hair. So there's a lot of
Okay.
protective styles out there, as well as wigs. I don't want to discredit wigs. Wigs are
No,
protective
we are
styles
gonna
as
go into
well.
wigs, by the way. We're gonna go into wigs further as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
But back onto porosity. What does that mean?
Right. So porosity is basically your hair's ability to soak up water. So if
Okay.
you've got, well, I might be, correct me if I'm wrong on this, might have to look at this. But if you've got a high porosity hair, that means that your hair does not soak up water as much as low porosity hair, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Okay.
So basically, the way to check it is you get a strand of your hair, and you basically put
Mm-hmm.
it in a glass or a jug of water, and you let it sit there. And if it sits on top, then it's high porosity hair. But if it drowns within the water, then it's low
Okay.
porosity hair.
Wow.
Right. So high porosity hair is okay. So high porosity hair is hair that actually is frizzy, so it doesn't take in moisture that well. And low porosity hair,
Okay.
so I've got it. Low porosity hair
Other way
is the hair
around.
that
Okay.
the other way around, yeah. So the low porosity hair is the hair that takes in moisture well. So if your hair sits on top, it's high porosity. If it drowns in the water, then it's low porosity, and that means your hair probably takes the moisture well. So you could spray it with water and put some cream and oil in
Okay.
there, and you'd probably be all right. Whereas people with high porosity hair would probably have to use more butters and maybe thicker oils in order for it
So the black
to
people
really
normally have
seal in that moisture.
more high porosity, or it's not to do with hair types.
It's not to do with hair types. It's just to do with it could be to anything. So it can be, so we have a lot of hard water in the UK, and that can
Yes.
cause high porosity hair. It causes your hair to frizz. Our hard
Okay.
water, because it's got so many metals and chemicals, whatever it may be. It's just hard water.
Yeah.
I don't know what the science is behind that, but hard water does cause high porosity hair, and so does chemical treating. So like, for example, some people used to get the keratin blowout, which I remember when it was
Mm.
first marketed, it was marketed as a natural thing. You could naturally straighten your hair. But a lot of people came to realize that once you sort of straightened your hair in that way, it changed your curl pattern. And hence that will change the porosity of
Oh.
your hair. Yeah, because it changes the way your hair takes in moisture, basically. So it can be due to a whole bunch of different things. And porosity of your hair can also change over time, as you see. So for example, someone that may have had their hair chemically straightened, porosity of their hair is due to change. So it can even change over time due to what you do to your hair as well.
Oh, okay, got you. So this sounds hella complicated, yeah. So how
Yeah.
important, like, what do you think then about, like, let's say white people adopting black girls, black kids, like, and their hair? Difficult, innit?
Uh,
Surely this must be a difficult thing to learn, no?
It is a difficult thing to learn. And I think I'm not like, I'm not going to sit here and say they don't know what they're doing. Like, I think it's absolutely we've all had to learn it. And I believe
Okay, okay,
if you are going to adopt a black child, I would just say that the person take there are a lot of classes out here that
okay.
basically give you information on how to do black hair and how to treat it. There are a lot of books that give you information on black hair as well for kids. There are loads of books and
Oh,
teaching black kids
okay.
to love their hair. There's so many books like that. So I think it's just doing the research behind it, knowing, trying to find out, what the hair type is, what the porosity is, and how do I go forward? How am I going to make sure that their hair is moisturized? How am I going to detangle their hair? Because that's a huge part of black hair. Detangling can, if done wrong,
Mm.
can ruin your hair. It can break your hair completely.
Oh,
So, you
wow.
know, yeah, knowing that you have to add moisture in order to detangle black hair, natural 4C hair, is something that this parents have to know. So yeah, it's a thing that I would say it's going to be complicated, but if the person is dedicated to the child, there's tools out there to help them navigate their way around
Wow.
it.
So talking about your personal experience again, so you said you've been naturalista in
And naturally,
for about 6 years, yeah? So
mhm.
let's talk about your journey to you getting naturalista. You said you started perming your hair at the age of 6 or 7. Why? Who was perming your hair and why?
Wow. So this is a long story. And I feel like this is the story that everyone always hears. I've seen all those memes that are like, we don't want to hear about why your hair's not long because your mum permed it when you were 12. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we've all got that story, haven't we? We've all got that story about how we've been horrified by perming. So when I was younger, I think my mum also didn't really know how to treat natural hair. She'd also had her hair permed from a young age. And in Africa, I'm
Okay.
from African descent. In Africa, a lot of women cut their hair short because ain't nobody got time
Mm-hmm.
for that, and it is hot. So a lot of women just cut their hair short. So my mum's always really had her hair short most of her life. And
Yeah.
so when it came to me, obviously my 4C hair, she wasn't sure how to treat it. So in the mornings, I can remember probably from the age of 3 when I started, I don't know, nursery or whatever, it used to
Yeah.
be such a struggle combing my hair, trying to get it up into those little pigtails. I would cry every
Yes.
morning. And, I remember being age 5 and my mum, one morning I was crying so much. My mum was like, do you want to get a haircut? Because I was like, I hate this. Da, da, da. She was like, yeah, let's go. That day after school, I went and got my haircut. And when I tell you the kids were horrible, the kids, oh my God, is she a boy or
Mm.
a girl? Oh my God, who are you? I'm like, it's me, Marie Claire. I was
Oh
here
my
yesterday.
God.
I know it was slightly traumatizing, not gonna lie, but it's built character. But like
Thank God.
you know but then after the fact, so when I was old enough to get a perm, at the age of 7, after my hair had grown out, and obviously we're still going through these things because my mum is still not educated on how to apply the lock methods, like applying moisture lotion, liquid to my hair before
Yeah.
detangling it. So she got my aunt to perm my hair, and that was fine. I remember feeling like it was so cool, had this little bob and my hair was swinging, straight hair. It was crazy, but I thought it was norm. Everyone around me had always had permed hair or short hair,
Yeah.
so I just assumed that's norm. So fast forward to the age of 16 now, I'm becoming a little bit more experimental. I go and bleach
Yeah.
my hair. Me and my friends we've put together and we bought a little bottle of bleach and we bleached our hair. I bleached my fringe section. I wanted a little red fringe because I thought I was a yardie or whatever. I was living
Yeah.
my life.
Yes, sir.
So
Tell them.
tell them. But obviously, I didn't think about the fact that there was going to be regrowth. And obviously,
Yeah.
this hair has now been chemically treated again on top of the perm. So obviously, I'm 16. I don't have money to go to the hairdressers and get them to do the touch up, in the professional manner. So I shout my mum and I'm like, "Mummy, the regrowth's in. Let's go." And when I tell you, she was combing out. She was basically combing out the perm, and the whole front of my hair
Yeah.
fell out. And I tell you, that whole bit,
Hey.
just nothing, just bald,
Chaye.
bam. I had to rock the bayang for about a good year until that grew in properly. I promise you, because I was so like,
Ah.
I was traumatized. I think that's where the trauma started, and that's where I really realized that this ain't right. This can't be it. This can't be, because first of all, it smells horrible. The perm stuff.
Yeah.
It smells horrible. It burns your head. It burns your scalp, and sometimes it leaves you really itchy. And I was just like, now
Yeah.
I'm getting older, and I'm starting to think about these things, and I'm like, now I've gone bald in the front for a minute. Like, what am I supposed to do about this? My mom's telling me, yeah, you see what you did. You shouldn't have colored it. And now, as I've become an adult now. I've become more in control of my hair.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fast forward, I'm 18, I'm 19, and I'm starting this perm stuff. it's just really starting to damage my hair. Like, my hair's got length, but it still hasn't got the volume that I
The
require.
volume,
And I've
yeah.
still got to put, clip-ins in and just give it the volume. So then I realized, I was like, my thick hair, my hair under this is actually thick. Let me let it grow out for a little while. And it grew out a little bit, and I could see that it was a
Yeah.
bit of a fro. And then I slowly and for a minute, I just had braids in. I was just letting it grow, 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 because I was way too scared to do the big chop. So once it
Yeah.
grew to a certain point, I just chopped it, and that was it. And I think it was deciding, it was going through those phases and seeing how much the perm was damaging my hair, and how I'd gotten to the final stage where my hair was down to, my chest area, but it was so
Mhm.
thin that I didn't even feel satisfied with this length that I'd been seeking for so long. So it was just
Mm.
like, I think it was reaching the point of like, that I'd always wanted to, you always want this long flowy hair. And then I got there and it was long, but it was kind of thin. And I was just like, this isn't it, child. This ain't it. This is not my portion. So I decided to grow it out. And ever since, I had such a journey, learning to love my short hair in its afro form. That was,
Mm.
I didn't see my hair for a long time when I was natural, because I just kept it in protective styles. I was in
I
braids.
think
Um,
people don't realize how political and how important black hair is, especially in the age that we exist in. A time in which we exist, that the standard is the European standards of beauty, the long flowing hair, and it doesn't just extend to hair, but hair is a big part of it. And we find that
yeah,
people,
no, I
especially
agree.
women, try to live up to that standard. So okay, so carry on. Sorry. So you started embracing your hair. Was that also come at a time where you kind of go on a journey of like self love as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think it does come from a journey of self, because you have to really dig deep to embrace
So
your
then,
hair, especially.
in that, then are you saying the women that don't embrace the natural hair don't love themselves?
I'm not saying that they don't love themselves. I don't doubt that they do love what they're doing with their hair. However, I
Hmm.
feel like the chemical, like, it's not a pleasant experience. Like, I personally have
Okay.
been through that experience, and it's not a pleasant experience. Like, I could understand it if it was, a lovely little experience that you'd go, like a spa day, or like getting your nails done.
Yeah.
It would be nice and chilling, but it's a really traumatic experience. It involves feeling of burning and these horrible smells and
Mm.
sensations that I can't imagine anyone really enjoys. So I don't think that they don't love themselves, but I do believe that it's the socialization. So it might be, have growing up where all of the women in your family's hair's perm, and you
Okay.
don't see natural styles around you, so you don't really know much about natural hair, and you're having to fend for yourself. And sometimes that big leap from having this easily maintainable hair to now having to buy all these natural products and learn how to do twist outs and all of these things, sometimes people are not
Mm.
ready to take that leap. So I wouldn't say that they don't love themselves, but they might be just in a different part of a different place in their journey, where they're just not ready to take on that responsibility, because natural hair is a huge responsibility. Not having it fall out, you've got to really keep on top of it. And I think, in order to be ready, you have to be ready to do that. And sometimes, if you're not ready, regardless of how much you love yourself, the person might be a mother with kids and they just don't have the time for it. They might be taking on a really tough degree, like a medicine degree, and they wouldn't have
Yeah.
the time, to maintain the natural styles and things like that. So yeah, each to their own. I don't think it's all tied into self-love. I think a lot of it has to do with lifestyle as well.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that. I mean, I heard that. I heard that. I think that's a fair assessment. How
Mhm.
about, okay, wigs? What's your opinion on wigs?
Now, I think wigs are
And before
lovely.
you talk, remember, I know you in real life. You can't come on this
I
podcast and
know.
start capping. You can't come. I've
I'm not
seen
gonna.
you, and I've seen you in your bonnet. I've seen you in your wig. I've seen you when the wig comes off next day.
For real, you've seen it all. I can't even come here and start capping. I've got to keep it all the way a buck. So
Exactly.
basically, when it comes to wigs, I've had my own journey with wigs. Let me not even sit here and lie. I've had my own journey with wigs. So I
Yeah.
remember when I first became natural, after extensions, because braids get expensive. Once you start paying £100, £80 to do your hair every 6 weeks or whatever, it gets a
Yeah.
bit expensive over the year. So you decide, I'm going to need something that I can throw on for a 3-month period and maybe get my hair rebraided every so often, which is cheap. So it's all to do with finances. So, for example, I now decided to start wearing wigs, and everyone wants to have the melty lace front. The women that know, what lace and all that good stuff that we see online.
Okay.
When the girls have just got,
It's not. It's not Remy.
in it, it's not Remy, honey. This is all virgin hair.
Me, I know. Me, I know. I know Remy. I know Peruvian.
I'm dead. We've moved on from that, honey. We on
Oh, is
bundles
it? No way.
now.
What's a bundle now?
Well, honestly, it's all virgin hair, so it's all supposed to be unprocessed hair
Okay.
that is from a woman of South American heritage, normally, or sometimes Asian heritage. So
So you're just stealing
Cambodian.
someone else's hair like that?
Listen, it's the
Come and see.
blame the game.
Come
I'm
and
just
see.
a player, not the game. Okay. That's the game. I'm just a player. So basically, when it comes to wigs, everyone's always, wanted to get, those beautiful wigs that we all see those influencers with, where they've been
Yeah.
gelled down with got to be gel. And the first few times I got my wigs glued down, like I found that my edges were really suffering through this got to be gel. And I've heard a lot of women talk about how these wigs are really affecting their edges, and like not even just the gluing down, but just the wig sitting on your hair for a long period of time. I find on your hairline can sometimes even mess with your edges as well. So I think protective styles are great and wigs are great, but sometimes they can, have that effect. So I always say to women, look after your edges if you're going to wear wigs, because they,
But
they do take a toll.
is there something to be said about? I mean, we discussed this before. We're talking about wigs, and the same people who wear wigs, which I don't have a problem with. I don't have a say on how women dress and how they choose to dress. It's up to them.
Right.
But isn't there something to be said where women who claim that they're, natural hair lifestyle, but they have wig styles that are not, do you know what I mean? That are not what
Yeah.
you'll find typical black women hairstyles.
Yeah, and I think I think I discussed this as well, and I was talking about how it's difficult to find these natural hair wigs. And so I've
Okay.
personally, you have to go to specific companies that actually stock these wigs. So I've now, like, I had that same sort of realization within myself. So because me and my cousin were having
Mm,
we were just having a little chit chat, and she was like to
yeah.
me, but you wear wigs, for example, but she's like, but why is it that all the wigs you have are all straight hair or curly hair, but none of the wigs that you have look like the hair that you have underneath or the hair that other black women have? And I had to think to myself, why is that? And the first thing I
Mm,
thought about is that type of stuff had not even really been marketed to me, so I had not even
yeah.
seen it available. I had to go out and search for it. So I did think, do they have them? So when she posed that question, I then went on to think, are these wigs available? And I found that there
Yeah.
are very few companies that do supply these type of wigs, and they are very expensive as well, because it's something that doesn't have a high demand, so it's not being produced as often as, for example, straight and curly wigs are being
Yeah.
produced. So these wigs are expensive, and I
But
find
demand though,
you
isn't it?
also,
It's about demand,
yeah, it's
no?
there's no demand, exactly. And a lot of women, if you're in a stage of coming into your natural, and I don't want to speak for all women, but if you're in a stage where you're coming into your natural hair and you're learning to love your afro, I
Mhm.
think these wigs are a sort of a safe space and a comfort that you can, that almost take you back to your perm days or whatever it may be, where the hair, you can pop on the wig, straighten it or comb it through, and you're ready to go. And I think even when you have the natural hairstyles, the wigs, for example, you still do need to give them that care, because it is still black hair, so you do still need to
Mm,
care for it in order for it not to frizz up on you, for example, if it's raining, or if you want to
become
maintain a
worn
certain
out.
hairstyle. Exactly, or for it to become worn out. Exactly. So these are things that I think are also affecting the demand for this. And a lot of people have said, like, I was in this discussion group with some black women, and they were saying that until the consensus changes, so the way in which
I
we
was just gonna
uh,
get off to that, yeah.
yeah, until the way in which the public see black hair changes, then black women are not going to be inclined to wear their natural hairstyles, because they're trying to avoid these awkward encounters that they have when they've got their natural hairstyles in and natural wigs in. So for example, if I was to wear, I've got this lovely, Tina Turner-esque wig, Shaka Khan. It's a big wig. It's an Afro wig, but it's
Yeah,
Afro blowout hair. So it's really long and it's straight, but it's still Afro hair. And I can
yeah.
imagine if I was to walk into a predominantly white office with that hair in, I would, you'd get it all, wouldn't you? It would be like, oh my God, is this all your hair? And
Mm.
you have instances where strangers will come up to you and ask you, is this your
Honestly,
hair? And
yeah, I find that so hella weird. But in talking about, like
it's
you mentioned, a professional setting, let's talk about, for example, when we speak about what is deemed professional and unprofessional hair. I can't lie, I find it ridiculous. When you first of all you Google, which I did yesterday, professional hair, unprofessional hair, you'll find that professional hair is like literally a comb over, or people who are white, and unprofessional hair, which is people who have the natural hair out, is black people. But I find it so hypocritical because I'm like, our own prime minister So you can't say he's not a professional. Has
Mhm.
done some of the worst haircuts I've seen ever.
Exactly. His hair is something that I would not regard as professional hair. I'm sorry.
At
Like
all.
that is,
At all.
I don't know what that is. But you also have to think about who is setting these standards of what is professional and what is not professional. Most of the times these standards are being set by white people. So in their views. And if you think about countries like South Africa, where they have had racism for a very long time and apartheid, certain children in this day and age, in speaking the last 2 or 3 years, are not able to
Yeah.
wear their afros into their schools in South
Can
Africa
you imagine?
because
Can you
their
imagine?
afro is unprofessional and or is untidy or unkept. And this is the sort of rhetoric and the type of racisms that have trickled down to these are everyday
Hmm.
racisms, but they're also part of systematic racism because if you think about a child being denied their education because of the texture of their hair, then it starts to become a
Exactly.
systematic issue. And I think
Exactly.
we have to start setting our own standards and having our own. If you think about the professional corporate world, a lot of women talk about being in the corporate world and not feeling comfortable with wearing their natural hair or their afro in the corporate world because of what is seen as professional and unprofessional. And so I think there's got to be a general shift and change. And we need to not Google unprofessional hairstyles and see dreads and afros because
Exactly. I don't understand. Like, you can't tell me a skin fade is unprofessional because skin fade looks like you look neat when you have a skin fade.
exactly. And it's a nice fresh haircut. And no one can tell me that an afro, like, think about it. I can't help the fact that I've got an afro. So if you're telling me that I cannot wake up in the morning and wear my hair as it naturally grows out of my head, then
Yeah.
you're telling then it's you know what I mean that you're now telling me that I don't belong in this space or I have to change myself in
Mm,
order to belong in this space or in order to come into this space. And a lot of the time
mm,
this is the issue that a lot of professional women will have, when we're asking these questions about, why are they not wearing afro wigs or coily wigs or pinky wigs.
mm.
It's because it's the same type of microaggressions that they're going to encounter in the workplace, whether they wear their hair or these wigs. It's going to be them asking people asking if it's their hair, people looking at them strange, getting these and like these are. If you think about it as a normal person, this it sounds very like silly to say that, but if you think about it
Yeah.
as a normal person, having to go into work day in and day out and dealing with these small microaggressions, it takes a
It's
toll on you.
tiring. Of course
Yeah,
it
it's
does.
tiring. It's
Tiring.
absolutely tiring. And a lot of black women are dealing with a lot of other racisms within the workplace, and they just would rather not deal with the hair thing too. And I
I
respect
get
them
that.
for that because not every
I
day is
get
a
that.
battle,
It's
and
not
not
easy.
every day is
Not if
war.
there's a fight.
Yeah,
It can be, but it shouldn't
yeah,
be. It shouldn't have to be. And then
exactly. It shouldn't have to be.
exactly. And then finally, let's talk about this now. As a man, yeah, when I see a girl with a certain type of hair, can I ask, is that your natural? Is that your real hair? If we're getting together, if I'm interested in her,
I just think it's none of your business. I think it will come up. Like if you think about it, if you're seeing
if I
someone,
get a surprise next day, is that not?
yeah,
You go to sleep with who? With who? With Mariah Carey. You wake up with Lauren Hill. They're both beautiful women, but
yeah, that's
they're
very
both
true.
beautiful women. But at the same time, it's like, oh, okay, I wasn't ready.
I hear what you're saying, but I think the way in which you can bring it up, it's the way in which you ask the question. So a lot of the time, it's not what you say; it's how you say it. And
Hmm.
if you're asking, if you're wanting to bring out hair and stuff like this with a woman that you really like, then I think you would have to discuss it in a non-triggering way. So not being like, "Is that your real hair?" Because automatically you're putting her on defense mode. Like, what do you mean? Is that my real
Mm.
hair? So you would have to ask it in a better way. So you need to, be like, oh, like I love your hair. This is all natural. You give them. I feel like there's always a way to compliment a woman and really get it out of her. And if you feel like you're saying to her, like, wow, this is all natural, it's all yours. That's so amazing. And if she says, yeah, then you're going to take it that way. If she says, if you
Okay.
go, wow, your hair is so beautiful and it's all yours and it's so long and beautiful. How'd you get it like this? If you were to say something like that to a woman, then she would either do one of two things. She's either going to be like, oh, love, I wish it was my hair, but it's not. It's a wig. Or she's going to go
Yeah.
with it and say, yes, honey, this is my real hair because that's how she feels like she wants to go through this conversation. If she's not ready to have that conversation with you, then that's how she's going to go about it.
We can't possibly be promoting lying.
Listen, I can't be promoting lying about hair, but I understand if someone does not, if someone, if I'm seeing someone and I'm not ready to have that conversation, about hair yet, because I have some, say, trauma or triggers around
Fair
speaking
enough.
about my hair,
Fair enough.
which some people do. You know, some people have hair conditions like alopecia and things like that, where it's beyond their
Mm.
control. And like, in order to speak to you about their hair, they have to trust you and really open up to you about, you know, something that might be happening with their hair. So if I'm one of these people and you're now asking me about my hair, I'm
Yeah.
probably going to lie in the first instance. And maybe when I get to know you a bit better and feel like I can trust you, I'll then let you know, like, you know what, this isn't my hair. You know, maybe one day you can see what my hair looks like, but you
But
know.
I'm thinking of that meme, the time where it's like, I can't wait to rub my fingers through my base hair, and the woman's just there staring in the bonnet.
Yeah, because it's like you can rub your fingers through my wig, and contrary to popular belief, you can rub your fingers through afro hair. Like, just be ready to have some, you
Yeah.
know, some grease on your fingers. There might be some lovely coconut oil. Your hair might
Oh,
come out
okay.
smelling of
We
coconuts
like,
and.
yeah, that's okay. We love coconut.
Do you know what I mean? Like, be ready. You can rub your hair through. You just got to ask for permission, and you know, if she's
Yeah.
feeling you, she'll let you touch her hair. It's fine. But you know, in an intimate setting, like, I feel like, you know, you just got to reimagine the way you're running your hands through her hair. Reimagine that. You
Oh, I love that. I
know.
love that.
Yeah. So don't imagine running it all the way through. Imagine giving her a scalp massage or something. You know, with some hot oil. Let's reimagine. You know,
Guana,
this hair thing.
Guana. Okay,
Yeah, I'm
okay.
asking
Let's
my,
reimagine
you know,
this
my
thing.
men that are into ethnic women to reimagine the way they're rubbing their hair. You know, if she's got her cane rows in, you put that hot oil in her hair and you rub you know, you give her the head massage, and you know, change the game. We need to reimagine
It
these things.
starts
The only way.
absolutely. It starts with all of us, man. It starts with all of us playing our part, man. This has been. I really enjoyed this conversation, man. It's actually really, really educational, much more than I
Have
thought,
it.
and I hope our listeners find it as interesting as I have. Guys, you are listening to the Malcolm Effect with Mamadou. I will post Mary Claire's socials in the comments. Please like, comment, subscribe, wherever you're listening on. Will be that on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. Until next time, take care, guys.
Thanks for having me.